Hey nerd, have you ever tried reading this? I'm not convinced. Hello there, everyone. This is Kyle Whittington, and today I'm going to be going over what it would take to convince me of the Protestant argument. Or phrased another way, why I don't find Protestant arguments convincing. Number one, you're gonna have to convince me of sola scriptura. A lot of times whenever I'm online, I will see responses that go a little something like this. Oh yeah? Well, I don't see that in here! Get wrecked! I'm sure you're a lot nicer in person, but whenever I read your comments, that's the tone that I read them in. So if you're coming at me with that kind of an argument, the race is over before it's even started, because I'm going to reject the sola scriptura position. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the Bible in order to be believed. So you're going to have to convince me of sola scriptura. One of the big problems that I find about sola scriptura is that you're not going to find Bible alone in the Bible. So therefore, it's a self-contradictory premise, and I'm going to reject it. Going back in history, the first time we see something that's like sola scriptura is going to be from Marsilius of Padua, who was alive in the 14th century, which is a couple hundred years earlier than the Protestant Revolution. However, that's still 1,300 years after the crucifixion. So even if sola scriptura was true, why did it take well over 1,000 years for it to come about? And while we're on the topic of church history, that's going to create more problems if you do convince me that sola scriptura is prescribed in the Bible, because you couldn't have compiled the Bible with scripture alone. Which, once again, church history, that leads me into my next point. Number two is going to be the early church. You're going to have to show me that your church is what the early church was, or you're going to have to show me that the early church was bad and it's good that you're not like the early church. So, put another way, if the early church was bad, why did Christianity disappear off the face of the planet until the 16th century? And if that is the case, how was that not the gates of hell prevailing over the church? All right, so let's just suppose at this point of the conversation, you have convinced me of sola scriptura. You have solved the riddle that is the early church. Well, now what I'm looking for is, if you're a Baptist, why should I be a Baptist? If you're a Lutheran, why should I be a Lutheran? You have conflicting understandings of Scripture, the same Scripture. So which one's the right one? Because I'm not looking to violate the law of non-contradiction, which means that A cannot be both A and not A. So what makes your denomination special? And I'm not saying that there's nothing that makes it special, but you're going to have to show that to me. And while you're making these arguments, watch out, because we might start all the way back to square one if you start violating sola scriptura. So in conclusion, that is what I'm looking for. You have to convince me of sola scriptura. You have to reconcile the early church one way or another to your denomination, and then you have to convince me of your specific denomination. My intention behind this video was to help people better understand where I and other Catholics are coming from, so we can establish better communication to foster mutual understanding. We're just trying to draw closer to the truth, and we can't do that if we're effectively speaking two different languages. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments any responses you may have, or if you'd like to present what it would take you to become Catholic. And as always, thank you for your time, and God bless.